got another great little tutorial for you guys. I'm going to be showing you how to make this really cute little headband right here. Hopefully you guys can see that. And then you can see how I've styled my hair. Yeah, so I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this really great headband. It takes a little bit of patience, but it doesn't take too long, and I think the time that it takes to make it is worth it. I really love mine, and I'll probably wear it quite often. I just want to mention too that if you guys do like this hairstyle here, if you want a tutorial on how to do that hairstyle, just leave a comment in the comment section below, and if I get enough people wanting that, then I'll do a video on that. So yes, comment if you want this hairstyle tutorial. And now let's get started on the project. The first thing I'm going to show you guys how to do is this flower part. So what you're going to need is some 1.5 inch ribbon, and then from there you're going to cut approximately 1 inch sections. And you're going to need 7 of those. Once you have those, you're just going to use a flame of some sort, whether it be a lighter or a candle, to just very quickly run it across the flame just to keep those ends from fraying. Once you've got that done, you're just going to take your rectangle, you're going to take one of your corners and fold it up towards one of the longest sides of your rectangle, like this. From here, you're going to take the opposite corner and you're going to fold that up just next to the corner that you just pulled up. And then you're going to add a tiny bit of hot glue just at the base to keep that in place. You're then going to do the same thing with your other bottom corner, pull it up and place it in about the center. Open up your petal like a cone and then place a bead of glue down inside and then squish it so that it's flat. And then just do that to all 7 of these pieces. You're just going to need a small felt circle, and I just cut mine out of a cheap sheet of white felt. Then you're just going to take your petals and you add some glue to the back of them and stick those on your circle, the bottom point positioned in the center of your circle. Now you're going to glue each one of these the same way all the way around the circle, just overlapping each one slightly onto the previous one. Once you've got those all glued on, we're just going to add our flower center. And I'm using these adhesive pearls. I liked these because you get all different sizes on one sheet, so you don't have to buy several different packages of these small pearls. So I'm going to take one of the biggest ones and I'm just going to glue it there with some hot glue. And now you have your flower. I'm going to be using some of these rhinestones, and I got these different size rhinestones in one package and they were very inexpensive. So next you're going to need 8 of these little rhinestones. As you can see, I'm using the second to smallest size, and all we're going to do is place these around the pearl in a circle. You're just going to glue those on. I'm just going to start by positioning one, and then I'm going to glue the one that's going to go directly opposite it, and then I'm going to do the same for the other side. So then you're going to end up with 4 evenly spaced rhinestones. Once you've got those 4 in place, you can position the rest of your rhinestones in between each of these. So this is what your flower should look like after you've glued on your rhinestones. So for the next step, you're just going to need your sheet of white felt once again. And we're just going to cut a 1 inch wide strip, and we're going to cut that to be about 5¼ inches. You're going to want something around that length. Then I'm taking my ribbon once again, the same ribbon I used to make the flower, and I'm going to cut a piece that's slightly longer than my piece of felt. And I'm just going to add 1 single strip of glue down the very center of my felt, and I'm going to glue my felt to my ribbon. You want to make sure that you just do 1 single strip of glue. This is just preparing us for a later step, and we need to have just that 1 strip of glue. Next, add a nice amount of hot glue to the back of your flower. Position it in the center of this piece. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to start working on the side designs. I'm just going to do one side to show you, but you're going to repeat the same step to both sides. So you're going to want to make yourself a string of these mini beads. You're just going to use some of this beading twine, and you want your strand to end up being about 10 inches long. Then you need to take another one of your larger pearls, and you just want to wrap one of the ends of your beaded strand around the pearl to make a loop. Once you've figured out how big your loop needs to be, you're going to take the end of your twine and you're going to push it back through the bead to close that loop. Then with your string pulled tight so that your loop is fully closed, you're going to take some of this E6000 glue. You should be easily able to find this many places where they sell crafting supplies. So you're just going to take a toothpick and a little bead of that glue, and you're going to apply it where your loop closes and just spread it around a little bit and then let it dry. It doesn't take too long, maybe about 5 minutes. Now once that bead of glue is dry, we're just going to snake this strand of beads around itself, gluing as we go to keep it in position. And you don't need to glue the entire back of it, you just want to create little points of glue so that it stays together. And then once you've got that all glued in a nice spiral, then you're just going to need to let it dry completely before we move on to the next step. Okay, so once that is fully dried, you're just going to take this swirly shape of beads and you're going to position it on your strip so the last bead on the outer edge sits underneath your flower, and you're going to butt it up against your flower. Now take your pearl and a small piece of felt, add a nice amount of glue to the back of your pearl and fix it to that piece of felt. Then cut around the pearl, removing the excess felt so that you have a little bit of padding on the back of your pearl. And this is just to have the pearl sitting up slightly so that your spiraled beads will sit nice and snug against the base of that pearl. Then you're going to take that pearl and you're going to position it right over top of the opening in the center so that you can judge where it needs to be glued. And then just lift it and pull out your beaded spiral, set your pearl back down in the exact same position, and then just lift the edge and add a nice bead of the hot glue so that you can fix it in position. So once again, take your beaded spiral shape and add a nice bead of glue around the edge of that center. Position it back properly with that last bead on the outer edge under your flower, and then push it down around the pearl. You might need to lift this and push it really good down onto the ribbon so that the pearl pops through. Once you've got that in place, then you're just going to let that dry. And once that's dry, you can go ahead and add some more little globs of glue underneath there so that the spiral of beads is completely glued to the strand. And then just let that dry. Now we're going to add a couple more rhinestones. We're just going to take the second biggest sized rhinestone and we're just going to glue one of those onto our strand beside our beaded spiral with some hot glue, and just position it so that the center of your flower, the center of your spiral, and the center of your rhinestone line up. Next part, we're going to again take our pearls and we're going to be using the very tiniest size pearls, and you're going to need about 9 or 10 of these pearls. Then you're just going to use your beading glue and a toothpick. So just take a tiny little drop of that glue, apply it to the back side of your pearl, leaving the pearl attached to the toothpick, and then you're going to use that to position and slide that pearl off. So you're just going to apply these pearls all the way around that rhinestone to make a semicircle. And you can use the dry end of your toothpick to help position those in place. Once you've got your tiny pearls on circling that rhinestone, then we're just going to add one more rhinestone, the same size as the ones that we put around the center of our flower. And so now I just need to do the same thing to the other side. Now that we've got both of these sides on, we're just going to snip those strings from our bead strands to clean this up, and then we're going to turn this into a headband. So for this part, cut your felt. You're going to cut your excess felt away. Now, do not cut the piece of ribbon or fabric that you have glued on top of your felt. You're going to just cut the felt section because we're going to need that excess to make this piece look more finished. And we're just going to cut around in the same shape of our piece. Okay, now I've got all of my pieces cut off and you can see what I mean here. Next step, you're just going to snip into your ribbon towards any of your corners. And you're going to do that all the way around. And once you've done that, you're going to go in between and you're just going to snip about every 1/4 of an inch of the way. But no need to do that on either of the end pieces. And once you've got all those pieces snipped, you're going to take your hot glue gun and you're going to start folding each piece over and gluing it in place. And you're going to do that all the way around, again excluding the very end pieces. So now I've got all of those pieces folded in and glued. This looks a little messy now, but don't worry, we're going to tidy this up. The next step is to start adding the band. So I'm going to use this smaller matching ribbon, and I'm going to need to cut 2 strands of this. The first strand is going to be about 8 inches long, and then the second piece I cut is going to be half of that, so 4 inches. And then I'm just going to take my flame again, and I'm just going to singe the end of the ribbons to keep them from fraying. Since I've got those 2 pieces of ribbon prepared, I'm going to add a bead of glue to the very end of my piece on the felt only, and then I'm going to position my ribbon so that one end is centered and overlapping by about 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to take my smaller piece of ribbon and I'm going to fix it in place on the other end of my piece. Now that I've got both of those ribbons glued in place, I just need to trim the ends of that leftover ribbon. So I'm just going to trim it so that I still have about 1/2 inch of ribbon on either side of my smaller ribbon. And then I'm also going to trim that end. Then you're going to place a very small strip of glue along the edge and you're going to fold it in underneath itself so that you create a nice finished edge. Then you're going to go along one of the longer edges, place another very skinny strip of glue and fold that back behind your piece of ribbon. And you're going to do that to the other edge as well. So once you turn it over, you can see that we've created a nice finished edge. And then you're just going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. So the next step is just going to finish up the back of our headband piece. You're going to take another piece of your ribbon or fabric that was used throughout the project and you're going to cut it so that it spans the length of your embellished piece. Then you need to once again, with your hot glue gun, run a strip of glue down the back of the main portion of your embellished piece and then just stick your ribbon on there. Next you're going to cut around the edge of that ribbon in the same shape as your headband piece, leaving a little bit of extra material. Once you finish that, you're going to flip it over. You're going to start folding the edges of that ribbon underneath and gluing it in place with some hot glue. And you're just going to continue to fold the edges in underneath and gluing as you go. So you're going to do that all the way around. Once you've got that done, the back of your headband should look something like this. It looks nice and neat. So now we've got to complete this headband. And for this part, you're going to need a piece of elastic. You should need a piece of elastic that stretches from behind one ear around the base of your head and up to behind the other ear. Now, as I said, you want your piece of elastic to stretch that big. So whenever it's not stretched, it's going to be smaller than that. The piece that I need ended up being 6 inches of elastic when it's not stretched. Once you have that piece of elastic, you're just going to glue either end of your elastic using your hot glue to either end of the ribbon on your headband. You're going to want to make sure they are overlapping one another about 1/2 inch. Now that you've got your elastic attached, you end up with these 2 yucky seams. So we're just going to cover those up. So all you're going to need for this step is another piece of that ribbon or fabric about 1 inch wide. Then you're just going to fold either of the long edges into the center and glue them in place so that you end up with a very long and skinny rectangle that has 2 finished edges. You're going to add a strip of glue behind one of your seams on your headband, and you're going to attach one edge of this strip, making sure that your center seam is facing down, and then you're going to wrap it around your ribbon and your elastic. Just trim off the excess edge, and then you're going to glue that final flap down in place. And you're going to repeat this to the other side, and then your headband is complete. Alright everyone, that's it for this tutorial. I hope that you guys liked it. I mean, it does take a little bit of time, like I said in the beginning, but to me, I think it's worth it. I can make 2 of these for less than the price of buying 1, and I get to make it the way that I want it to look. I know sometimes you can have problems with buying those elastic headbands, and for me, they just seem to be too big. So for me, making this headband, taking the little bit of time to do it is worth it. If you guys did like this video, don't forget to click the little thumbs up below, and if you want to keep up with when I'm posting all of my videos and tutorials, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can do that by clicking subscribe just below, or you can click right up here in the top corner on the Creative Glow, and that will get you to subscribe as well. Also, if you want to come join me other places on the internet, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and a few other places. I've got just a little list of those places right here, but I'll be leaving the links in the description of the video as I normally do. And don't forget to come check me out on my blog. I just did a redesign of my site, and if you haven't come and checked me out on my blog so far, you should come over and see what I've got going on. I've got posts that I may not be making, videos to go with, showing my art and some other things as well. So I would really love for you guys to come join me over there, as well as all those other places. I guess that's it for this video. I just want to end by wishing you guys all a really awesome day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!